Hey y'all, well happy Tuesday. Alright, so I'm out here on my front porch because it's pretty much the only place that's quiet in my house right now. Today I want to talk to you about something a little bit more personal. I mean, you've probably already seen the title, so you get where I'm going with this. So let's just start there. So right as you know, the beer flu, or COVID, you know, I call it the beer flu, but right as all of that was breaking out in the world, at the end of February and kind of the 1st of March, I guess, I mean, I knew about it going on internationally, but I wasn't paying that much attention to what was coming this way in the world. So I decided to make a big change in my life on March 3rd, which was like the first Monday in March, and that was that I decided to get rid of nicotine from my life. And so I did a video a while ago that talked about how I broke up with cigarettes, and I had used these little Enjoy, they're called dailies or quick draws. They kind of look like a cigarette, and you know, they're disposable, and you buy them at the store and you just kind of puff on those until they go out and you throw them away. And so I used those for, I don't know, I want to say about 2 years, and so that kept me from smoking, you know. Now I don't think I was any better about how much I used them. You know, I wouldn't say that it made me use nicotine any less than I did when I smoked cigarettes. So sometime last fall, I think it was about the time that the children were going back to school, I had this little thing come up on the inside of my lip, kind of right here, really right, just right about there, but on the inside, and it kind of felt a little bit like a chew spot, like maybe, and I have been a kind of a person to do that, where I'll get the inside of my cheek and I'll just chew on it for some reason, kind of anxiety, or I don't, nervousness, or just maybe even bored, you know. So when I first noticed it, that's kind of what I thought that it was maybe just a place that I'd been chewing on, which then kind of made me aware of it and made me chew on it a little bit, you know, not like I'm gnawing at my face, but just kind of a nervous thing, you know, messing with something inside of your cheek or your lip. And so, but then it kept getting bigger and bigger, and then it would pop inside of my mouth. And this went on for, well, I'll say this went on for a couple of weeks while I was still using the little Enjoy vape pen. And everything in my world told me that the pen was causing it, because it was on this side, and that's the side almost always I use that pen on. I don't know, something about my right hand, and that's just always the side of my face that I use that pen on. And so I felt like I needed to immediately quit using that pen. I mean, because I used Dr. Google, and you know, everything about that is bad. But definitely, if I'd have went to the doctor, according to, you know, everything I read on Google, the first thing that they would have told me was to quit using that pen. So I did, but that didn't solve for my addiction to nicotine. So I kind of felt like at the time I didn't have any choice but to kind of go back to smoking cigarettes, because I was addicted to nicotine, and I didn't really have an action plan in place right then, or any decisions. I wasn't in any mindset right then of trying to quit nicotine. I just wanted my mouth to heal up, you know. I wanted this to be something not serious. I wanted it to go away. And it took about, I want to say, a month or two after I quit that pen for it to finally go completely away, you know, where it kept doing that same thing, where it would swell up and it would fill up with a fluid, and then it would go away, it would release the fluid, and then finally, like I said, it just completely went away, and it's never come back again. So I can't say for sure when that started, but I want to say, like I said, sometime in the fall is when I started smoking cigarettes again. And I started smoking the same cigarettes that I did before, which was the American Spirit cigarettes. And I started back smoking cigarettes around 2013, because the only time in my life since I was a teenager that I quit nicotine was when I was carrying the girls, and for like a year or two after they were born. After when I'd started back in 2013, in 2014, 15, I decided that if I was going to smoke, then I should be smoking, and a bunch of my friends told me this, that I should be smoking the American Spirits, because in some way that tobacco was truer, natural, blah, blah, blah tobacco for me. Cost twice as much as the tobacco that I was paying for before, but I believed that I was smoking something more healthy for me. Now, I love to smoke, and I'll just be honest with you about that. And so I've always been a little bit, as sick and crazy as it sounds, envious of people that could just smoke all the time and not ever have a cough. But smoking is not like that for me. Smoking gives me a terrible, terrible cough. And coming into the first of the year, that's really the thing that kind of broke the camel's back for me, is that I was just sick and tired of coughing. And I was sick and tired of, waking up in the morning on a day that I knew I could have probably fallen back to sleep, but I'd start coughing so bad that, there was no way I was going to get back to sleep, and it had become really uncomfortable for me, this cough that I had. So the first time when I'd quit cigarettes and went to the Enjoy pen, it was like President's Day. So I really was thinking hard on it in February, but I just didn't manage to pull it off in February. And so when I came out of that first weekend in March, I just decided to lay down the cigarettes. And so March 3rd was the first day that I just didn't have any cigarettes at all. And now, mind you, any of the other times that I had completely quit nicotine, it was usually at the start of a pregnancy. And all my pregnancies involved a lot of being real emotional at the beginning, being real nauseous, not feeling good. So I couldn't say that I've ever really experienced quitting nicotine outside of those instances. Now looking back, I wonder if those pregnancy things were as much to do with my pregnancy as I thought, or if they were really more to do with getting off the nicotine. Because the first day, and that's kind of where I want to start with, is I want to kind of talk to you about what that first week was like, where I've gone to from then, some things that I kind of wish I would have done differently, things I did to get through, and hopefully this is helpful either for somebody that is wanting to quit nicotine, and especially maybe for somebody who has a family member or someone that they're around all the time that is quitting nicotine. So the first day was just really like no big deal. There's a car going by. So the first day was no big deal. It's nothing. I used to work jobs where I didn't smoke all day long, so it wasn't a big deal. I think my body was tricked into thinking that somewhere towards the evening I would smoke and have some nicotine, but I didn't. And so day one was no big deal, and day two seemed like it was pretty well no big deal until sometime in the evening, say like after 5, sometime around then when we were cooking dinner, my husband said something that got me real emotional. And it wasn't him, it was that my emotions were ready to set off. And so that kind of trickled into Wednesday, and that means I did this in the middle of the week. Okay, so Wednesday and Thursday were the worst possible days of this entire journey, and I don't even know, like I could sit here and tell you to prepare yourself for this, but it's all over the internet what the side effects of withdrawals are going to be like. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I would do differently, is I would take the list of things that can happen when you're detoxing from nicotine. I would really take that a lot more serious, because you know, in those 2 days I experienced a ton of, I didn't sleep well because I was so restless, and then during the day I felt so tired. I had the most terrible thoughts. I was in a constant battle with myself and my mental state and lies that I was trying to tell myself, and I just was in a wicked, terrible, bad way in my head. And I also didn't have any cocktails that entire week, because to me, cocktails and smoking were one and the same. They were partners, and one couldn't come to the party without the other one. So that made it even a little bit more challenging, is just really completely sober, quitting, you know, nicotine. So those days were really tough, and I kept, you know, doing Google searches, kept trying to find ways to help myself. So some things that I read that I did, that, you know, it said to feel free to let yourself sleep as much as possible. So I did, you know, in between picking the kids up from school, and I may have gotten some help with that on these 2 days because they were really rough for me. And to let yourself eat and do whatever. And so in those couple of days, I made requests from the store. Like, I had a junk bag that literally was like Funyuns, hot flaming Cheetos, M&Ms, Kit Kats, stuff that I just really don't even ever eat that stuff to begin with. But when things would get bad for me and I just felt like I was going to come out of my skin if I didn't get some type of nicotine fix, I could pull that bag up from the side of my bed and start eating those things. And it's funny because, like, now I think, like, hot Cheetos were such a good friend to me during that time, but now it was just something to do with that time, because I can't really stand them. I didn't really like them before, and I really don't have anything for them now, but something about that really hot thing having something to change how I felt when I just felt like I was going to come out of my skin was a big deal for me. So yeah, if I go into things I would do differently, is, like I said, I would definitely take those symptoms a lot more serious. I definitely would have done it on the weekend. I would not have done that in the middle of the week. Maybe, you know, starting on a Thursday and a Friday and then going into the weekend would have been better for me. By the time I got to Friday, I wasn't so bad off, but I was still very much a zombie, and I was a zombie throughout the weekend. And you know, and then things kind of got easier for me. And that Friday night I did have a cocktail, and I did, you know, I thought I really was at the point of thinking that I was just gonna die if I never had nicotine or a drink. And so I did have a drink, and I even, you know, got my husband to get me one of those stupid vape pens, and I tried it, and I was so fortunate at that point, because I just didn't want it anymore. My body didn't even want it. I didn't even react to it. Not even having a drink really felt that good to me. You know, my body was doing work, and I just let it continue to do that instead of pushing it back into thinking that it wanted to pick that back up, you know. And so and you know, it was a crazy thing for my husband too, you know, because he is, you know, he's dealing with me just going completely crazy. Like, I set up my own rehab in our bedroom, and so you gotta have some heart for the people that are taking care of you when you try to do something like this, and try not to be too awful to them. So, like I said, as we came into the next week of March, which was, you know, like the second full week of March, just as I was like coming out of my craziness and my zombie mode, was when I went out for toilet paper, and when I found out that all the stores were going crazy because of the pandemic that is going around. So I essentially quit nicotine and quit cigarettes, all like right as the windfall of COVID and the pandemic swept into the country. And I count that probably as a good thing for my health, but you know, it's crazy to think that I'm going through this without having cigarettes to lean on the whole time. But I guess at the same time, I guess that's something to say, that it's been a whole month, and out of that month, I've probably been at home with my children for 2 or 3 weeks at least, and I still haven't started smoking or using nicotine again. And I've, you know, I've went back and forth with when I was going to talk to you about this, and I guess a lot of it was that I wanted to make sure that I actually, you know, got through the whole thing before I came in and shared it with you. But I feel like, you know, after going through, you know, this whole big deal, that I've got it whipped. And that's not to say that, you know, that when I see people doing that, that I don't have the same feelings that I used to associate with it and have the ideas of wanting to do that. But what I can guarantee you that I don't want right now is to ever have to go through the feelings of my body withdrawing from nicotine ever again. And so I just want you to know that if it's you that wants to quit, or if it's your partner that you want to quit, or they want to quit, that it's a really serious thing to quit that, and it's a very serious, hard thing to do. And I think that if you accept that it is that hard to do, that you will be more kind to yourself. And if it's one of your partners or your friends or your roommates or something like that, that you'll be a lot more kind to them, because it's really just mind-blowing to me how big a grip that had on me, when I always told people that I felt like, for me, smoking had a lot more to do with having something to do with my hand than it did with actually being addicted to nicotine. But I can tell you, from going through that week of my body detoxing from it, I know for sure that my body was addicted to nicotine. So it's been like a month and a week since I smoked or really had any kind of nicotine. So I just wanted to share that with you. So maybe if you're thinking about quitting nicotine, I am not encouraging anybody to quit nicotine right now. Right now, I mean, it would probably be the best thing for you in the midst of a pandemic that has to do with the respiratory system. But I don't think that it is a sound mental health choice to quit a big addiction like that right in the middle of this. Now, when the world starts to normalize a little bit, come back, watch this video, take some notes, get you some snack bags, put together a plan to maybe step yourself down. Because if I didn't mention that in the beginning, I did this just cold turkey, you know, no gum, no lozenge, no nothing. I just laid it completely down. So I wish you the best of luck, and I hope that if you are wanting to break up and quit your addiction with nicotine, and because anymore you can quit smoking and go right into vaping, but that's not really getting rid of the addiction to nicotine. So if you're thinking about that, I really hope that maybe you use this time in quarantine to put together your plan, so that when we get a little less crazy, you've got a solid plan to start working yourself away from that addiction. So I wanted to share that with you, to give you an encouragement and support anybody who's thinking about that. And more importantly, I want to let you know that it's possible to do it. So there you are. That's kind of my ramble for Tuesday.